Now that we have installed the necessary extensions and our necessary MCP tool, now it's time to create our first Flutter project. Let's go back to our agent mode. Let's remove this or close this file. So as you can see, to the right, we have a chat prompt. We can literally start conversation right here. So this is basically the IDE where we can create folder, open folder, where our Flutter project will be loaded, and we can literally write inside our Dart files like we always do. And there is an agent specially dedicated for this IDE. So whenever we need to fix something or to modify something, we can directly ask here to modify our code. There is another place which is an Agent Manager. So at the top of this Antigravity IDE, it says Open Agent Manager, or you can simply click this button as well, or you can simply press Command E or Control E or Command E. It will open the Agent Manager. So this is actually a manager window. This is not the IDE. This is just a manager window, which you can open by clicking this button, clicking that button, or clicking Control E or Command E for Mac. So what is actually an agent manager? So agent manager actually keeps track of all the conversation. You can start conversation right here, but if you want to keep all the conversation in a file or in a structured way so that you can visit or go back to the previous conversation, then perhaps it is the better place to do that. And not only that, whenever we tell something to our agent to do, like create a file or create a project, then agent will first create an implementation plan or a task plan or a schedule plan, and that's the thing you will see inside this agent manager. Because whenever we open the Antigravity, we have chosen an option that will always ask for permission. Our agent will not do by itself. Before it does something, it will ask permission from us. So if we tell our agent to do something, it will first create an implementation plan, and only if we allow that, then it will start performing. And all the plans and tasks and schedules that will be listed inside this agent manager. So you can either start with this IDE's Antigravity chat prompt over here, or you can simply start from the agent manager. Okay, so first of all, when you open the agent manager for the first time, you will see this window. I'm going to dismiss that. Just click next. It is saying that you should start with a workspace. So you can create a folder, or you can open a remote folder. So I'm just going to hit that open local folder, and inside your machine, in any drive, you can create a folder where you want to put all the conversations. So I'm going to this one over here, or maybe this one, and create a new folder, Flutter Antigravity. Okay, so I'm going to hit and select this folder. So now you see inside in the left panel, there is a workspace which is called do you trust the author? Okay, trust folder and continue. Yes, I trust the authors. Okay, so now under these workspaces, you see a folder is open here, but there is no conversation yet. So we can press this plus button to start a new conversation, which take us to this chat prompt. So we can start conversation right here, or we can start conversation right here, but it is always better to start conversation from here so that you can keep track of all the conversation in a specific workspace. I'm getting some error with MCP error, and it says the GitHub MCP server. So previously perhaps I have installed the GitHub MCP tools, but it requires Docker running in my machine. In my machine, the Docker is not running, but I think you should ignore this error right now or completely. If I now start Docker and restart Antigravity, then this error will be gone. And we will need GitHub MCP tools later when I will show you how to create a repository, GitHub repository, and our agent will do all the heavy lifting for us. Okay, So just right now, completely ignore this error. So now under this conversation, I want to give our agent a new task. Let's say create a new Flutter project with default counter app template with aesthetic look. So I am just telling our agent to create a new Flutter project with default counter app and some design like an aesthetic look. Okay, well, I told you that we could create a Flutter project by going to our editor mode. So we can go to our editor, we can click view and comment palette, and from here we can just type Flutter and create a new Flutter project. But we really want to see our agent doing this stuff. Okay, so open manager, and now I just want to hit send, and then you will see it is generating something, and you should take a pause or read these messages carefully. What it does, it will say a lot of stuff, and then it loads the MCP tool .mcp server create project. So I told the agent to create a project. Now it looked over the MCP dart file and found the corresponding command, and it's trying to run this command. And as you can see at the bottom, it says run Flutter create aesthetic counter. So it chose the project name as aesthetic counter, and it is asking our permission to run this command. So just hit run, and now it says Flutter create aesthetic counter. It will run this command, and like I told you that you should read all this stuff initially when you start Antigravity, start using Antigravity for the first time. And you can always click these options to check what it did previously. If you miss anything while running this command or while generating these messages, you can always go back and read this if you're interested. So it says edited main.dart, and now it says that I have successfully created the new Flutter project name aesthetic counter and completely revamped the default template and updated the lib main.dart file, and it does something, and then it is telling us to visit the main.dart file. So I'm going to open this. So perhaps we need to go to our editor, explore, and open the folder. So I'm going to hit this button, and I'm going to the location where I created the workspace like Flutter Antigravity, and then I'm going to open this folder or select this folder. So you see this is a complete Flutter project, and these are the files that we are used to see in a typical Flutter project. This is the Dart tool, Android, and this is our lib file. Here is some suggestions from this ID. Would you like to use recommended VS Code settings for Dart and Flutter? Okay, yes. I'm interested to open this lib directory and main.dart file. So this is our main.dart file. How about that? It created a whole new Flutter project with a lot of design materials. We can go back to our Agent Manager over here. It says that you can navigate into your new Flutter new project and run it to see the results. Okay, and this conversation is saved over here. You can start another new conversation if you want. Like in one conversation you will modify the design, in another conversation you will start telling the agent to apply some state management approach like Riverpod or provider. In another conversation you can tell another agent to set up the database. So multiple agents can run simultaneously, asynchronously in parallel without hampering any other's work. Okay, so now I am going to open the editor one more time, and here in this agent prompt within our IDE we can start conversation right over here. So now we can see our Flutter project is ready, and I am really eager to see how it built by running this application. So we can start our emulator, or since this is a simple Flutter project, we can run this Flutter project on default browser, and we can tell our agent to do so. So in this agent mode, within the browser, within the IDE, we can simply say run app in default browser. That's it. That's the command you want to send to your agent, and make sure a model is selected over here. And by default we have some new models like Gemini 3.1 Pro. This is high, this is low, this is Flash, and there are other models from Claude and GPT as well. So this is selected by default, and also the plan mode is selected from here. That means it will always plan then execute for complex task. Okay, so I'm going to hit this button, and now the agent will start working on running this application on default browser, and it is trying to list all devices connected to this IDE. And another thing, if you look carefully in the project structure, it has created all the necessary files for Android and iOS and Linux and macOS and web. So if you want to create a Flutter project only to target Android and iOS, then you should mention it into the first prompt. Whenever we created a conversation in Open Agent Manager, we need to tell the manager that I want to target only Android and iOS. Okay, so in that case, it will only create the folders that are directly linked with Android and iOS. So a new browser has been opened, and it is trying to run this application inside this browser. And here you go. Here you go. This is our beautiful counter app. The counter app we always look whenever we create a new Flutter project, but that counter app is not like that, because if we want to design something by ourselves, I mean, just look at the codes, look at the codes. And if you are a new Flutter developer, then perhaps this will be overwhelming. But if you an experienced Flutter developer, then you will just chill and wonder and just read the codes, what agent did, all the stuff. Let's try to interact with this application. Whenever I press this button, you see there's an animation, crossfade animation, I guess. And this is simple counter app. No other buttons, no other interaction, just the button counter app, but it looks absolutely great. So this is how we can create a new Flutter project with necessary commands in Antigravity, and it will create a plan first, and then we can execute it. For complex tasks, you should always go to Open Agent Manager. But for simple tasks, like I want to change the color of this counter text, okay, so, or I want to change a variable name inside main.dart file. So for this kind of operation, this agent, the IDE integrated agent, is enough for that. But if you plan to do a complex task, like if you now tell this agent to convert this project to a provider or apply state management using Riverport or provider, then you should always do that using Agent Manager, because in that case, Agent Manager first will give you an implementation plan or task, and you can review them, you can modify them, and only when you allow to implement that task, the agent will start performing. And we will do that. We'll apply a lot of stuff inside our project, and I guarantee you that you will be surprised to see what our agent can do.